you work 250 days times $400 a day. That's $100,000. If your kid's life depended on it, could you make $4,000 in a day? I said, I don't know if I could, but I think I can. And he said, good, now do that 250 days, and now you've suddenly made $1 million a year. And I went right to $1 million a year.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Planman. Finance, insurance, and more.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Planman. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein. I have a belief that each and every one of us have a right to getting proper financial planning. Today, I am blessed to have the illustrious, the author extraordinaire, Mark Victor Hanson, author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And you're going to tell us how many other books, but I have been blessed to know Mark now for a little over a year, and he's helping me write one of my first books, hopefully of many. But Mark, please welcome to Ask the Planman. Let's start with that. Is how many books actually have you written under the Chicken Soup for the Soul branding?
Yeah, there's two answers there. In chicken, we've done 254 books. Myself, I've done 321 books. I'm a omnivorous reader and writer. How's that? I think I can use that word both ways.
So between the two books, there's over 500 different books that you have written and published.
Yeah, and then if you add to what we're doing, like I'm helping you with your book, which we're going to talk about, the number just keeps going up, because I believe, and I think you believe, everyone's got a story, and that story needs to be told. And the story needs to be told in a book and then made into an audio tape and electronic and hardbound and softbound for not only now, but for all future generations. In other words, I was thinking about legacy today, and because you said we could be a little open. If you think about it, people say, well, I don't know if I got something to leave. Well, look, you and I are reading books that were written, like, because you're Jewish, 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. Depends on what you really
That's
believe.
right.
You know, Moses and the guys before Moses, Joseph and all that. Then if you go forward, all the philosophers were, and then you got Jesus 2,000 years ago. And since then you got guys like Shakespeare 500 years ago. And you and I are reading old books.
That's true. Edgar Allan Poe and the like. Yeah, still a couple hundred
and
years.
Everybody ought to write and leave their story or stories. And what you said about stories, I believe everybody ought to do sequels and prequels. I mean, the thing that we got asked all the time, here's Chicken 1 and Chicken 2. When we did 1, we sold 1.5 million in a year and a half, basically, actually 1.3 million. And then next year we 5. But our publisher said, we got to have a book behind it. And he did two things. He contradicted himself. First of all, he said, you guys are going to be a one-book wonder. I said, I don't think so. No, I'm going to do, this is my life. This is my life plan. I'm a white glove guy. I told my father, I didn't know what one was, but I are one now, as the joke goes. And then the journalists, because before podcasts not radio and television, as you know, but before that, we were on every major show, Oprah, everybody. But people would say, well, your number 2 one's outselling number 1. Your number 1 and number 2 for 58 weeks. Do you object? I say, I get paid on both. Why would I pick anything? And when you do a second book, it helps sell the first book, and the first book helps sell the second. So it's sort of exciting. And once your mind is awake and you got a white hot burning desire and passion to write like you do, what happens is, hasn't your mind during this last year we've worked together and with my team and that expanded?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, the prayer of Jabez is, bless me a lot. Number 2, expand my territories, meaning expand my thinking, expand my opportunities, expand my promotions, expand my future. And that's what we want to do with you. We want your future to be bigger, better, brighter, more extraordinary than you've ever imagined.
For me, it's been opening up the synapses of my brain, getting the stories out. I'm the layperson. You people are the pros. I don't know what's important. I don't know what's going to resonate. And then so there's the self-doubt. And so you've helped me overcome and believe in what I'm writing, what I'm talking about, and to aspire. And there's mixed messages, hopefully, or a combination of messages in what I plan on publishing that is going to help inspire. It's going to be financially planning driven at its core, but then there's going to be stories of perseverance and overcoming and inspiration that hopefully, again, will resonate with people. Because like you said, not everybody has a story, everybody has a journey. Most people rarely don't get knocked down and don't have struggles and tribulations and setbacks. So, with the setback comes the comeback. And that's what life's journey is about. And, one of my lines is life, no one gets out alive. Like we all got to deal with garbage along the way. So we don't get out alive. It's always a challenge and a journey, and it's what you do with it. So,
but I think there's 4 kinds of garbage we all get, and everybody gets it. Everyone's going to have pain. You've never met anyone who doesn't have pain. I mean, maybe when you're born, but even delivering a baby is
you're
painful.
crying. You're coming out crying. So somebody's
whacked and got to cry.
Right.
You're going to have adversity, and you've had it. I've had it. We've had it. You're going to have problems. That's like a given. These are incontestables as far as I'm concerned. Like you're saying, you can't get out alive, and you're right. Then you're going to die. But the point is, while you're here, the goal is to live as fulfilled as you can, and it can only help if somebody with the wisdom, the eclectic wisdom that you got, shares that, and as the people read it, they go, oh, they're going to come back to you and thank you in their prayers, Bruce, and say, I don't know how I could have ever made it without Bruce. I was hanging out by my fingernail. Right? And the point is, you're going to come back and help a lot of other people make a comeback.
Yeah. Well, I always say at least one. Every time I publish something, put a podcast episode out or a short or a reel or something, I hope it just, as long as it influences one person in the right way, it's worth my time, energy, and money. So hopefully the book and everything that we're doing will continue to move us in that direction.
Well, Solomon said in Psalm 72, I don't know how they do it in the Jewish church, but do you call it Psalms, the Songs of Solomon? I'm not that familiar with Okay,
that
anyhow,
side. No,
he said the goal of you and I is to be influencers of influencers. Isn't that a cool line?
I like that. Well, yeah, you definitely are.
Your podcast is influencing whoever's watching. And that's my goal, is to have them go out of here beating on their chest and feeling like Tarzan or Tarzette and saying, hey, wait a second. I may be on a schmuck yesterday, but I'm okay today, and I'm going to do better tomorrow.
Every day, just 1 inch, right? Just 1 inch, 1%, whatever it is. That's, you're trying to improve. My message on the show is the proactivity, and there's so many different aspects in our lives that surround planning.
Yeah.
Getting to the supermarket, you need a plan. You need a grocery list, right? Wherever you go in your day and your routine, there's some plan or organization behind it. And so I'm trying to create this drive for people to be more proactive, not have to be reactive, and then certainly put in the financial influence with their finances and insurances, is to be properly protected along the way and enjoy their money and get that message out and retire as early as possible if they want, and do all these things. And so, yeah, it's hopefully the book will get and inspire. And let's tell everybody your Guinness Book of World Records of how many published books. I'll let you say it.
Well, a couple of different numbers, but the more important one is probably how many we sold. We sold that's 500 million, pushing almost 600 million. And you go, well, how do you not know that? Well, you can't, because I'm number one in like Vietnam and Greece and stuff like that. Well, you wouldn't know, but Sunday night, my wife and I got the International Impact Book Award for selling more books in the world than anybody. But what I was going to
just make sure people heard it. 500 million books sold.
That's a $500 million. But my plan was to sell $1 billion. So I'm a little over halfway to goal. But I want to talk about plan, because I say you got to figure out what you want, which is ask. We wrote a book called Ask, The Bridge from Your Dream to Destiny. Number 2, it's got to be in writing. The spiritual law is it's got to write it, make it clear. And plans hits all levels. Like if your life isn't working, it's because you haven't got a better plan, right? And when Jim Rohn's teacher, Mr. Shelf, said, Jim, show me your goals and your plan. He says, I haven't got one. He said, then I can tell you within a few bucks how much we've gotten in the bank. If you haven't written down, you're going to make 100,000 or $1 million or $1 billion, you haven't got a plan. But it also works for a relationship. In our 20th anniversary issue of Chicken Soup for the Soul, the first story is called Love Soul. What the heck is it called? What is the title of Find Your Soulmate, I guess. But the point is that Crystal and I, it's one love. Yeah, my soulmate. I wrote down 267 things I needed in my ideal wife, positive and negative. And most people don't have that kind of plan because they haven't thought, well, when you're young, remember when you're a kid,
Yeah.
I want her to be hot looking, babe. I need eye candy on my arm. Superficial, Bubba. Or like you, they want tall, dark, handsome. And if he could be rich, that's even better. But little things like totally loves me and demonstrates it, works on self-mastery and spiritual mastery, likes my business, beautiful, takes care of herself. We're each other's number one priority, enthusiastic and excited to be alive and living, vitally healthy, health-oriented. Those are the happy things. The negative things, she's got to be a non-smoker because I don't want to kiss an ashtray. It's just not something I want. And can't be an alcoholic, can't be a drug user, has to have made her own money and be charitable and have great etiquette. You know, it's the point is that everybody can write down what they want, but most people go, I'm too busy. If you work as hard as I do, Bruce, you go home and watch a little TV and then you go to bed and then you got to get up and go to the next grind. It's a grind because you never wrote down what the heck you wanted.
And I find for me, I'm not the writer, right? And part of the engagement is I get to kind of more dictate and talk, and then your team helps convert that into the written. Because I'm not a writer. So as much as you're the analytic and can sit there and do that, that's probably a big challenge for people. So if my listener out there is struggling on why they're not writing their own book, I want to put that message in here is that there are ways to work with professional writers. And what we do is record the session. And then now with AI, it translates everything into or dictates it into the AI that recaptures it. And then my team is then cleaning it up, if you will, to make sure it's properly picked up. And then it's written accordingly to be more for the book instead of just a conversation that we're recording. But we're taking the stories and the anecdotes in real time, which is how I operate best. So it's getting the best out of me and my 38 years and my stories and how we do what we do. And but that's a big reason why I avoided getting going. I think when you and I first met and were introduced, I showed you my cards.
Yep.
So, perfect. So I have my index card. So I had notes and notions on what to do, but I could never write 1,000 words on that topic. I'm not a writer. I'm a talker.
But we pull it out of you because you can talk it, and talk story is important. I mean, everybody was oral before that. I mean, you and I could argue anything you want, and the listeners can argue with us or afterwards and write us each. But, written language, according to what I believe, only started 5,000 years ago. One of my daughters is an evolutionary biologist. That's little girls walk at 9 months, little boys walk at 12 months. You can like it or not like it, but if you got a complaint, you got to talk to somebody other than me because I can't do that. But all writing, not only for the Jewish people, but when I opened up the pyramids in Guatemala, they started writing 5,000 years ago. So somehow, and we went into the artwork and underneath the pyramids, and what happened is they went from 2D, two-dimensional artwork to three-dimensional artwork there and everywhere around the world. Like when I've been to Egypt and the Middle East and India and China, all of it hits at the same time, and you go, well, why did that hit 5,000? I can't tell you why. All I can tell you is that there was no written before. Maybe because we didn't have parchment. Maybe the Egyptians hadn't figured out how to do paper yet. I never thought that through until this conversation. But the point is, everybody watching is saying the reason they're watching is because I don't believe there's any accidents. Now, you may, but I think there's a divine synchronicity. You and I had a meet because you got important things to share and you got people to talk to that care about things that matter. And that is a communication you've got to have books for. And we love helping everyone evolve. We say we take your ideas and stories that are impactful and bring them to life.
Do you find that the written paper these days has been overtaken by the Audible side? How are you? You're on the inside. I'm not. But.
Yeah. There's two answers to that. The answer is yes and no. It depends on where and who the area is. There's areas like where I live is a book buying area, Scottsdale, Arizona. But the generally speaking now, people, because they're so busy and they're driving so much in their car, they're exercising. Thank God everyone's exercising. Like I exercise an hour every day with my wife, aerobically and anaerobically. But everybody's listening. Like I got hearing aids, so it goes straight from my phone into my ears. And so 70% of books sold now are on Audible or audio or recorded books. Or there's 12 iterations. And now thank God we're in the time we're in, because as I told you when we started talking, the people around the world for the first time, we've got AI that can switch your voice, your tones, your intonation. So you're suddenly speaking Japanese and don't even know how to, or Swahili, and why shouldn't somebody in Africa or Japan get what you got to share?
Wow. So my book's going to be converted into other languages automatically with AI?
It's not there yet, but I've touched the hem of that garment. Yeah, it's here.
You see all the AI conversation.
Yeah, the inventor came here and talked to me and I said, look, I know the guys in New York don't want to do this because they can't see the future. I see the future. I'm a visionary. We'll do it. Consider it done.
It'll be global.
It'll be 2 years from now, but what do you care? You get paid in every book. Like let's take when Greece started buying my books like a year ago, I thought, God, Greece is in trouble. God, forgive me. Oh, I can't believe it. Greece is in trouble financially. They screwed up in the EU and all that. And I don't know how sophisticated everyone listening is, but trust me, I love Greece. I've been there 3 times. My wife loves Santorini, all that. But the point is, their economics don't work. And they called me and said, we're going to give you a bunch of money if we have the rights to sell your book in Greece. We're turning it into Greek. I go, I take the money and I take the royalty. You got it. And we'll do the same with your book. And you go, wow. And we're in Vietnam trying to keep communism out and keep capitalism in, because I'm very pro like you are. There's no free lunch. So everyone ought to have a place where they can create financial freedom so they can have relationship freedom, time freedom, and passion and purposeful freedom to do what it is they want to do, which is what you said earlier.
So I'm thinking from when we were first introduced, you mentioned you had over 200 books in your pipeline at almost any given time, that there's that kind of volume coming through. And I mean, again, I don't know. I know McGraw-Hill is a name, or Penguin or some other ones, but like this is Mark Victor Hansen Publishing. Like this is your own
library.
And so go ahead.
Yeah. Random House, the biggest, they do 25 billion a year. They're doing 2,800 books a year. So they're, because they don't expect anyone to make it. I'm in the opposite position. I expect everyone to make it. And the difference is that not only will I help you make it like we are right now, but I'm going to introduce you to the other people that are doing the kinds of stuff that you don't know, that are your neighbors and friends. And we're going to help each other make it. And we're doing stuff. We're getting ready to do stuff that nobody's ever done before, because I believe, like I told you in the original thing, a book should be original. It should be inevitable, and it's got to be impactful. And the point is original. Let's originally market some stuff that's never been marketed this way before. Like right now, we're doing a book with, you're in Florida, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. The story I'm going to tell you is not there yet, but there's one young kid who owns 132 Ike's famous sandwiches. They're the best sandwiches in the world. He gives you 1,000 kinds. Then you got cool names like Marilyn Monroe and Michael Jordan. They're really cool. Now he's doing Ike's Love Donuts for $2 each. He says, where else can you get? But he's going to sell books at his little stores, and he's going to open up 5,001 store in the next 2 years. Well, you say, well, wait a second. Come on, Mark. I want my books sold in Barnes & Noble. You don't. No, you don't. You don't care where they sell. You care, A, that you sell, B, that the people get benefit, and C, that you get paid. That's all that really matters here. Now, if you object to any one of those three, or have another objection, I want to hear it, because I'm giving you new information and stuff. No one thinks about selling in alternative places. Like when Liddy Dole came to me and said, hey, Mark, we're out of blood at the Red Cross. What can you do? I said, let's go to medical doc. She said, no, we tried that. They won't give any blood or ask the patients, even though they see blood and guts every day. I said, great. I said, I work 4 markets, one of which is chiropractic. There are 77,000 doctors of chiropractic. They're all my friends, because I teach them how to have a high volume, $1 million making practices. I said, we'll ask them to reactivate old patients, give a pint of blood, and they get one of my books free, and they get a free adjustment. And we send it out, and we'll call it 800 Give Life or Blood Mobile. And I want everyone to give blood. And if you give blood while you're alive, that's good. If when you die and they're sure you're dead, give all your blood. The 9 pints of blood will help somebody else.
Sure. You got to make sure. We're getting into financial. Let's get into more financial stuff. We can talk some more financial. Let's, certainly not personal stuff, but what other financial?
No, everybody needs to write down how much money they want to make. when I sat with the world's greatest salesman in life insurance, Ben Feldman, who was on the cover of Time and Fortune and all that, Ben said, have you got kids? I said, yeah. I said, do you love them? I said, yeah. I said, you're making $100,000. Remember, this is 50 years ago, $100,000 a year. To make $1 million, Mark, it's only 1 0. I said, what? So what? He said, you work 250 days times $400 a day. That's 100,000. If your kid's life depended on it, could you make 4,000 in a day? I said, I don't know if I could, but I think I can. And he said, good. Now do that 250 days. And now you've suddenly made $1 million a year. And I went right to $1 million a year. I jumped tenfold. Same thing your neighbor, Grant Cardone, saying. Everybody ought to 10X, because what Crystal and I taught in this book, Ask, the bridge from your dreams to destiny, your subconscious can't take a joke. And that's why I said to you on the phone the other day, you literally got to see yourself where you want to be. And what Bob Proctor and I created, a 3x5 card. So you write on your 3x5 card, I am so happy and grateful I'm making $1 million a year. In my case, by doing 250 seminars that make $4,000 each. I signed it. My wife signed it. Bob Proctor signed it. And then we went, pew, right? Because the subconscious, whatever my cliche, what you think about comes about. The Bible says, as a man or woman thinketh in his or her heart, their deeper, innermost, highermost mind must come to pass. Not maybe, not next week, next year, not for Mark and not for Bruce, not for Bruce and not for Mark. No, for anyone. The principle is a principle. The principle is the minute you impress it into your subconscious mind, boom, it has to come to pass. And you start making more money. And it's easier to make a lot of money than a little money. And by the way, that doesn't, when you're broke and down and out, like I was bankrupt 50 years ago, I thought, I heard something like that. The guy's full of crap. What kind of garbage is this guy sell? Who's he selling? Right? That's like the same time I heard the guy say problems will make you rich. Well, that's what insurance is. Insurance solves a problem, right? And you sell the multiplicity of insurances that solve a multiplicity of problems.
What you were referring to a minute ago was limited beliefs. People have limited beliefs.
Bingo.
And they stay inside a box and they don't believe that they can do things, or they're surrounded by the naysayers that say they can't do it. And it's the old crabs trying to get out of the bucket. Is, one crab will never escape a bucket of crabs because all the other crabs do is pull it back down. And so we as humans kind of do the same thing. Is we don't want to see somebody succeed and be successful, so we're going to knock them down. You can't do that. Why would you even think about doing that? Nobody can play Major League Baseball. You're not good enough. And so you squash people's dreams before they even set out to do it.
So let me talk to that.
Yeah.
So the reason we got turned down by 144 people, Jack and I, when we wrote Chicken Soup, is the first line I wrote. I'd interviewed, and this is what I'd ask you to do, is interview the 101 best-selling fiction, nonfiction book author. I didn't ask them how to write. I know how to write, I thought. So, and I do. I asked them, how do you market? How do you market? And they told me, and I wrote it all down. And so I thought, well, I know what I really want to do. I want to sell 1 billion books. So the first line in my the business plan was, I will sell 1 billion books. Pretend you're president of Random House and my agent brings Jack and Mark into you. You got 1 billion books. They're whispering behind you. Bruce, do you know how stupid this is? Nobody's ever sold 1 billion books. This guy can't do that. Nobody's done it. And so I'm on the biggest podcast, which I'll get you on with Amazon, a guy named Mark Devereaux. I've been on twice. He owns Amazon book podcast, the biggest. And Devereaux says, the first thing he says to you, he says, Mark, oh God, the guy in London that ran a 4-minute mile, he said, what is that guy's name? In 1953, he was a medical doctor who ran a 4-minute mile. He said, Roger Bannister. He said, Mark, you're Dr. Roger Bannister. I said, I never thought of that before. But before he ran a 4-minute mile, nobody could run a 4-minute mile. Your heart will jump out of your chest. You'll be a dead person. Your blood can't handle that speed. And so he ran it. And I said, Mark, do you know how many people ran it the next week? He said, no idea. This is that breaking the glass ceiling. He said, I don't know. I said, 119. Physiologically, Bruce, we weren't any different. Anatomically, we weren't any different. Mentally, technically, we weren't any different, but we changed our belief because Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich says anything the mind can conceive, and that's why it's got to be in writing, and believe, because you got to repeat it until you own it. It can achieve, or it can, anything you can conceive and believe you can achieve. Yeah, I said that right. So the question is that what do you want to conceive? And then every day, do you have a journal and do you write in it? And you've heard me before, but I say write 10 new goals every day of your life. 10 new goals. First thing, get up, take 5 minutes, write them down. Keep them, and then they compound. And some of them will help you accomplish the other ones that you didn't know you could do.
So for somebody struggling with even thinking of that, what would be like the low hurdle type goals? Like what to get somebody kickstarted? Where would you start that? Like I know I would struggle with it. Is I might think too big, or I just like 10. Like you just overwhelm me saying I got to do 10. So
I have 50 years of journals, but this is my current journal, and it says bursting with big life-changing ideas. How's that? Isn't that temerity?
Yeah, I like that.
So starting back in January, if you do it, you want to do your philosophy first. I live a passionately, on purpose, and omni-beneficial life. There's a philosophy. No one can say, man, I want to be dreadful. I want to be depressed. I want to be despondent. I want to be angry.
I want to be a miserable SOB.
Right.
Kick the dog 3 times a day.
Right.
And
our friends are truly great, helpful, and serve greatly with joy, love, and happiness. So you do your philosophy first. We're getting richer, healthier, happier, and we savor every second.
So important. So important.
Then, for my physiological, I want to lose 2 inches of waistline. So I got a 36-inch rock solid waistline. And like I do 100 push-ups. I do a lot of stuff, but I'm not doing a lot of waist exercise. I wasn't. Then one of the books I haven't finished, like I work on 5 to 7 books at a time, but one of my own books is Money Wants Me, and I'll make it a bestseller, right? Go on 4 vacations a year because Crystal and I think we're loveaholics because we love what we do, talking to people like you and helping stuff. So we haven't been taking our vacation. So today, as one of the 4 vacations we'll do this year, I booked us into the best place in Belize, the country below Mexico, right? And I've been there once, but there's a kind of watch I want to get, a Petite Philippe, so I get a world time watch. I just,
those are nice.
Expensive, but I like.
That's a few speaking engagements right there.
Yeah, that is. Buy the best clothes. Well, turns out yesterday we talked to the guy, the world's biggest haberdasher. We're going to do his book, Greg Chapman. The book we're doing with him will be called, his title, Confessions of a Beverly Hills Tailor. He has people come in, guys. I won't talk for women because you and I are guys, but buy $600,000 worth of suits a day, like 800 suits. Because he said you shouldn't wear a suit twice, which I disagree with that. But get a massage at least once a month. I mean, this is just simple stuff.
So it could be, so that's a good one because that's like something that could be more in a routine of somebody. Like I took Robin Sunday, we went for a massage. We try and go every other month or so. They're not inexpensive, but we have local places that are more reasonable than going on a cruise ship, which charges you double. But, we're trying to get more in tune to our bodies and feeling better. And so, de-stressing. So we went the other day. So that could be something on your goal list as simple as I want to get a massage once a month or once a quarter. I want to take Friday afternoons off. I want to go to happy hour. So your goal setting doesn't have to be, it should be a combination of very large, but also small step victories. So I posted this morning, I went to the gym and I've been posting for a couple of years, my weight loss journey, struggles and challenges. I lost 65 pounds, doing it. And in the last few months, a few pounds have crept back on and I post and I own it. And what I posted today was the small victory that I've been, and pun intended, buckling down again to get it off. I've got 7 pounds off since I started complaining on social media that I put weight back on. So I got 7 off. And my small win that I accepted with pleasure was I got a notch back on my belt. I had lost 2 notches. And so I shared that because it's just the small win. Like I felt really good when the pant went to the next notch.
Right. And by the way, the small wins, big wins.
Right. Yeah. But you have to stack the small wins because the big wins can become a challenge. And then what tends to happen is people don't reach that. And then their self-talk, you said before, the mind doesn't know you're joking. So it takes the belittling as validation. So when you belittle yourself and you knock yourself and, I'm a loser. I didn't make my $1 million this year. I made 800,000 and I'm a loser. Well, now, your mind is believing you're a loser. So you gotta have, folks, the small victories and wins along the way to let that momentum build and then keep expanding. You mentioned Grant Cardone earlier. He's a big proponent of writing your goals in the morning, writing them again at bedtime, and that it becomes very self-fulfilling, as you said, what the mind, says, reads, and will believe, and then it can achieve. And so a lot of people are big in that visualization. I guess that's the right way to say it, is visualizing where and what they want for their goals. So
yeah, one of my big books is called Visualizing is Realizing. But one of the 10 goals I wrote one morning was add big value to a person a day. And I really do that, because if you keep adding value to other people, the karma never loses an address, it'll come back. And then the next one was make longs and shorts for YouTube the equivalent of one a day. Well, we just hired a guy that is so competent. My son found him for us. And he's so competent. In the last 3 days, we've spent 4 or 5 hours on the phone. And he's got a whole strategy and a whole system. And we wrote down everything we could do, and we're filming on Monday, and we'll film 100 in a day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. But we just get them all done. I got a lot of clothes, so I'll just keep changing clothes and we'll shoot my house. But I wrote it down back on January 20th, and it takes a while for these to gestate, because different goals have different gestation, meaning that a chicky egg is 22 days from zero to birth. An elephant is 2 years, and you and I are 9 months. So it's like, very cool. So if you want to write your goals, I used to give away journals to every audience I had, but we had Mark Victor Hanson gold journals, which I can show you if you need to see them, but they're cool.
Well, I think it's important, and for the listener, you've lived your life and walked this walk. It's not just happenstance, and it's not by accident. So you have intent with what you're doing, and that's where I think a lot of people struggle is, I'll get around to it, or we're back to the planning conversation. Is tomorrow's another day, I'll do it tomorrow, and they're not taking it seriously. And the old line has been, people spend more time planning their vacation every year than they do their finances and retirement. They just don't spend time doing it. And so the same here with the goals and the small things is journaling and writing. It takes a commitment. There's so many people fail because they just stop, myself included. You just stop. Like, I've gained weight, lost weight, gained weight, lost weight. Why'd you put it back? Because whatever you did, you stopped. Say it again.
You're going to lose it and keep it off this time. I'll bet on it.
Well, that's the challenge, right? And so
no, that's one of your goals. One of your 10 goals is whatever that notch is.
don't give it back.
Yeah, you're like a 32-inch waist, I'd assume.
Oh my God, I haven't had a 32-inch waist since I was 5. I'm kidding. No, I was talking with somebody who's a health and fitness coach on here. He actually lives by you in Scottsdale. I introduced Preston to him last year when we were out there, Doug Wood, and I referred to it as a cheat day. And he corrected me. He goes, "It's a choose day. Cheating's a negative word. You choose to have the pizza today. It's not a cheat day. You're just choosing that you want to have pizza today." So you reframe it where it's not a negative, because most people say, "Oh, I'm having a cheat day." And now you're talking to yourself like you're cheating. And listen, you have so much knowledge and wisdom in this arena. I love just hearing your anecdotes and stories. So I'm just trying to pull some out, for the audience. But
you got to write down your goals. Your homework assignment is write down all your goals. How much money you want to make? How many books you want to sell?
I got my blank
cards. When you want to sell by? That you got to write down that you're going to come up with a marketing idea that's totally unique for books that no one's ever thought of before. Like, no one ever thought of using a Red Cross to sell books and add it to chiropractic because they needed each other and didn't know. So you take a negative time a negative and you get a positive. You know the math of that. And it's unlimited. And then whatever your charity is of choice, like when I had 397 employees and was doing a $100 million company, we had mostly women, Anglos, Hispanics, blacks, everybody, but all the women were almost all single. That just is the way it worked out with kids. And so they all took their kids to Boys and Girls Clubs. So they said, hey, look, the Boys and Girls Clubs need money. So I said, well, let me go over there and talk to them and see what they do. So it turned, long story short, I go with that guy. He gets me with their biggest charitable giver is Coca-Cola. But Coca-Cola doesn't give them any money. They give them, they allow deals to work for Coca-Cola. So here's the long and short of it. We sold so many books, you can't believe it. But we did a test at Coca-Cola, and people who drink Coca-Cola, which is not good for your body actually, but don't read. People who drink Diet Coke read. Therefore, we said, well, look, let's sell the book to the people of Diet Coke. And we got the side of 50 million Diet Coke cases for 6 months, 50 million. And it was Chicken Soup with the Romantic Soul next to our friend Nora Roberts, who's a great lady fiction writer. She writes 52,000 words a week, longhand. She cannot type. She cannot compute. But she writes a book every 2 weeks. And she's amazing. And she's with like I am. I'm with 8 houses because I was prolific. And she and I are friends. So the point is, we raised so much money selling those little books, and it took our book to number one. Of course, the book that we did, The Romantic Soul, was number one for a long time. But because it was for 6 months, it was every day the people that buy Diet Coke on the side of it saw that, and we gave them a little 3-page sampler inside a 6-pack of Coke. And we sold so many books, we got 15,000, 15, comma, and 3 zeros, kids in the Boys and Girl Club paid for scholarship by us. Well, Coca-Cola took all the credit, and then they took us to New York, and they hosted us magnificently. I don't want to understate how, as a company, they are really generous to people who figure out how to do stuff. But that's not the end of the deal. Everybody can come up with a cause, and it's called cause-related charity, because every charity needs money. Every charity will gladly sell your book if you come up with some innovative idea like we did. And it goes crazy. But I've never stopped doing that, and not on this call, but you and I, when your book's done, which is closing in on it, we'll figure out a charity. It's got to be your charity, not, you decide who you want to help that really matters to you. I mean, we tie every book we do to a charity, and that's why we sell more books, because the principle is, you can't take a breath until you give one. So you got to understand that you got to be able to give to receive.
Well, you're truly masterful. I'm just listening to the way you convey and process all these different ideas. You're very, I don't know if cognitive is the right word, with your idea and evolution, expansion. I'm more of a critical thinker. I don't know if I'm an idea creator in that sense. I'm a good problem solver. Like that's more my forte. But you're thinking so deep and outside for the creativity of stuff. That's for somebody. That's obviously how you wrote over 500 books. It's just amazing. So here, I'll bring it home with this question, and we'll tie it back to the book. So throughout your years of working on Chicken Soup for the Soul, do you have a particular story that profoundly affected you out of all those stories? You got 500 books to pull from.
It's sort of like saying, do you have a kid that you love more?
Yeah, who's your favorite kid, right? All right, so you can just tell me who your favorite kid is instead.
Yeah. What happened is, in the first book, we have a story called Bopsy, and it's a great story because I'm out in New York, Pennsylvania. A lady is on the program, and all our stories are true. They're not apocryphal, meaning fictitious, in Chicken Soup for the Soul. And this woman is on the program, and she just touched my heart and soul and got me crying. And I said, oh, my gosh. And I got her to write a permission so we could use her story. But bottom line, her little kid is dying, ends up in the hospital, and she says, this started the Make-A-Wish. So this is how Make-A-Wish started. That's how critical this story is. And Make-A-Wish is headquartered here in Arizona. She says, what do you want? Says, I want to be a fireman. Now, he's laying in the hospital bed dying, right? Getting to be a fireman is not like a likely thing to do. So she goes down to the fire chief, who I met because I do my due diligence, and nice guy. And his name was Bruce. How does that grab you? The captain of all the fire people here. Anyhow, And he took the kid out on four alarm fires. And it just wowed him, and he had to take him back to hospital. And by the way, I asked him, I said, hey, Bruce, can I want to go in it. I didn't know how scary it was. You're in an 80,000-pound vehicle going at 50 to 60 miles an hour through red lights to get to a fire. And I got to go on 4 alarm fires. Dangerous. And these guys are and ladies are putting on their clothes while you're soaring down the highway. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting my own story because I know I'm not supposed to do asides on the sides. But anyhow, the kid is in his final days, and his mom says, is there any last thing you want to do? Said, yeah, I want to know if I'm really a fireman. Would you please call the fire captain? Well, she calls up Bruce, and he has a heart bigger than Arizona, bigger than America, and says, I'll be right there. The kid's on the 3rd story. They'd been there. They run to the hospital in a fire engine and says to the wife, the mother, says, get him to open up the 3rd story window, and you just are there waving. What color dress are you wearing? So I know it's you. And she said, yellow, and says, great. They run the hook and ladder up to little Bopsy's room. That firemen, 19 of them go in. It makes me cry. I love it so much. 19 of them go in, and they're standing around this dying kid's bed. And they said, Bopsy, what do you want to do? He says, I just want you guys to tell me, am I really a fireman or not? And they brought him a little fire hat. They brought him a fire badge. They brought him a fire T-shirt. And then he died peacefully. And you say, what is there a better? The kid got to make a wish, and the make a wish got so big, it did things you can't believe. I'll do one more story that we have in the 2nd book. I am talking in Washington, D.C. I fly all night on a red light to get a red eye flight to get to a big church called Mile High Church in Denver. I get there at 8:00, and a minister, I've been in there every year because churches are one of my markets, and I love this guy. And he's standing out there. The kid's standing next to him that's got what's called scoliosis, bent over spine, and she's wearing a head wrap, and she's like 12 or 13, not an old person. And probably her parents are behind her. And I'm going, and I got picked up in a limo because he wanted to make sure I was going to make it to church to do the talk because I was famous. And the day before, John Denver got married there, and who's a friend. So I arrive, and I'm looking at this, and I go, oh, whoa. And the first thing the minister says is, do you know about Make-A-Wish? I said, yep, kid gets to make a wish and have it come true. They will usually want to go to Disneyland. They want to meet Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger. I said, nope, this kid read your first book, and her dying wish, because she's going to die of cancer in the next 4 days, wants to meet you. I go, by the way, you get off a plane and you haven't had any sleep. You aren't in a position to have anything but emotions. And I was a bundle of emotion. Right. And I start crying. I said, well, can I give you her name's Amy Graham. I got the right to tell her story. I said, Amy, whoa, I am really honored. I never, in my whole crazy ass life, I've never expected to fulfill somebody's wish. I didn't look for that. I wouldn't have written it down as a goal. I'm glad if I can do that. I can tell you, because the minister and I are close friends, you're our honored guest. You get to come to all 3 church services. And this afternoon, I'm doing a whole seminar. And it'll just be me and the audience. And if you can hang all day, if you got enough energy, let's do it. Well, the afternoon, I don't know what got me into, but I attend all the healing seminars, and I'm crying. And I know it's probably not a good thing to do on radio podcast, but I learned from the healers what to do. And 5% of the people are natural healers, and they don't know it because they've never written down their goals. I've got healing power. All of us have healing power. But 5% of us can literally heal others supernaturally, not naturally, supernaturally, like Christ did. And I go to a healing church here. We wrote the book called Healed with Dr. Cyril Mira. So I'm used to this stuff, but I had everybody rub up their hands. I said, okay, everybody rub up your hands, get your energy going. Can you feel it? Feel the ball energy, get it bigger and bigger. Now I'm going to bring somebody up here. And I told the whole Make-A-Wish story. And then I said, this little girl is dying. The doctor's doing voodoo medicine, as far as I'm concerned, say she'll be gone in 4 days. That's not acceptable to me. And I don't think it's acceptable. We had 5,000 people paid to come to hear me in the afternoon because I'd done 3 services of 5,000. There's standing room only and all that. I said, a lot of you got healing energy and you don't know it. Today you're releasing it. I'm inspiring you. You've loved what I've had to say, but today, you didn't know you came here, and I didn't know I was coming here for Amy, but we're all here for her. So I'm going to stand behind her, and I'll just reflect all the energy in the room. Everybody stand up, rub up your hands again, feel that ball of energy, and we're now sending it to Amy. And it turned her on. Well, now she is way older, an adult. She's got 3 kids, a great husband, a great job, a great life, a great lifestyle. And she was supposed to be dead. And all I'm saying is that everybody, that same technique, all of us can use it. It's not a one-off for Mark Victor Hanson. He can get you to rub up your hands and feel your energy. Everybody's got it. Like if your wife got sick or something, you could send healing energy. When my little daughter, Melanie, was little, mom wasn't sick. Mom wasn't well. So Melanie said, Daddy, I've seen you do it, so I can do it. I said, of course you got it. And she healed her, right? 4-year-olds don't know they can't do it. Back to what you said about mind limitations. Most people are self-limiting, and it's tragic. It's not magic. It's magic if you listen to this podcast. It's magic if you watch my stuff on YouTube and break through all your own barriers. It's magic if you read some of my positive books, which I get credit, you're too Pollyannish and you think stuff can happen for everybody. I know it can happen for everybody. It's not that I'm magic. I've just watched magic, and I wrote a book called The Miracles in You, right? So I did write that book, and Dr. Ben Carson, my dear friend, wrote the foreword to it. And he says, Dr. Hansen, I do believe in magic, and I see it every day. And Ben healed, pediatric neurosurgeon, 15,000 kids. You can read his book called Gifted Hands. I wrote the foreword to it, or one edition of it. I don't know if you can find that anymore. But, none of the kids died. He took co-joined brains, 28 operation, one guy doing it with assistants, and cut them apart. They're still alive. I met him at Ben's when we were together once in Washington. Anyhow, he was at John Hopkins. He's chairman emeritus of the pediatric neurosurgery ward.
I'm just going to say, for those listening that aren't watching the YouTube side of it, Mark's been pretty emotional and wiping his eyes and very touched. So I got him with a good question. But one question I had was strikingly touching for you and for me. I hope the audience appreciated that. Those are pretty amazing stories. The little boy and the fireman, for sure, and the fact that your audience was able to send healing powers to somebody that, how many years has she survived? Do you have a ballpark on the age?
Decades.
Decades. So
I could look it up and tell you, but I don't know.
No, it's just so amazing. So I know you have to run.
And she writes once in a while and says how everything's going great. She's helped heal. She's now a healer and healing a lot of people.
It's just astonishing. That's unbelievable that she was given days to live, and it reversed course. But I know you have to run. I cannot thank you enough for joining us here. It was Mark Victor Hansen Libraries or Library?
Librarysingle.com.
So you could look up Mark. If anybody out there is aspiring to write a book or wants to talk to Mark or his people about potential book within you, as Mark believes everybody's got a story in them, please reach out to me or Mark directly. We'll be happy to get you in touch with them.
Yep.
And thank you again. Any closing thoughts before we go?
Just the size of your question determines the size of your results. So keep asking bigger, better, stronger, hardier, more impactful questions so you have a glorious future. Because this isn't a dress rehearsal. This is not, you got to invent you each and every day and invent you bigger, better, stronger, healthier, hardier, more nobly and more ethically and honestly. How's that?
Boom. That is a wonderful sign off. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. So I'm just going to say, Mark Victor Hansen, thank you so much for joining us on Ask the Planman. Thank you for being here, folks. Please like, share, subscribe.
Everybody.
I'm sorry, say it again. I talked over you.
Delighted to be with you, Bruce, and everybody. Thank you.
When you need some advice, always get it right. Thanks for joining us on Ask the Planman. Give us a call, email us, bruce@asktheplanman.com, 844-PLANMAN. Till next time, Mark, thank you so much for joining with us. We'll see you next time.
When you need some advice,